Okay, hello and welcome to Ewe Sew You. It's time to toile a shirt, so let's go. Okay, so before we can cut out the fabric to work the toile up, we need to grade between two sizes. So I like to mark both sizes on the paper pattern with a nice healthy crossover, and I mark where I want my connecting line to go from. I then line up my French curve to get a nice smooth angle between the two sizes. It sometimes takes a little bit of fiddling around to get it in the right place. But once you've got it settled, you can draw in a nice solid pencil line between the two sizes. And once you've got that in place, you may want to smooth out either end, just to make sure that it joins into the original size lines nice and evenly. You're going to do that on every piece that needs that adjustment to it. Okay, so I've made my pre-fitting adjustment to the toile pattern and cut all the fabric out. So I'm just going to change my thread over, because just in case I don't have to make too many adjustments and want to wear the shirt, I'm going to do matching thread to sew it up. I'm not going to worry about finishing seams when I sew up the toile though. I'm just going to get it sewn together. I'm not going to put the buttons on until I've finished fitting it and decided whether I want to keep the grey on or not. So no buttonholes, no buttons, no seam finishes, nothing like that. What I am going to do is obviously practice the pin tucks, because I've not done that before. Sew it up to get it to the point where the body is all complete, so no sleeves on it. Check the fit of that bit and then look at the sleeves, because I do want to practice the cuffs. So yeah, so let's get going and see what it's like. Okay, so I've got my shirt toile to the point where I can try it on to check the shoulder seams. However, this is the right side of the back. This is the wrong side of the front. Oops. And it'll serve its purpose for trying it on and checking the seam on the shoulder. But then I may need to unpick it and redo it, even if it fits properly. But never mind, at least it's not the final one. Okay, so initial first fitting, I am pinned into this because in the pattern she has put the sleeves in on the flat. So I've pinned the side seams together and I've pinned down the button bands. At this point I just wanted to really look at the shoulders and just get a general sort of sense of how things are going. Overall, I'm not too concerned with anything at the minute. A couple of tweaks to make. These bits I'm going to see what happens when the sleeves are on, but I think I need to add about 1/2 inch around the arm side. The shoulder seams are nice and straight down my shoulders, but the edge of the fabric is pretty much on my shoulder point, and you'd want the sewing line, the seam line, to be there. So I'm thinking 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch needs to be added on around there to bring that seam in line with where it needs to be, but I'm going to double check that once the sleeves are on. And that may also help with some of the looseness that's happening around here, plus the side seams are only pinned. I also I'm not convinced by the darts. At the moment they're ending there, which I think for me is a little too high and probably a little bit too far in as well. So I'm thinking of dropping them down 1/2 inch or so and back maybe 1 inch. But again, I will double check that once the side seams are sewn up. It's a good enough fit for a backup wearable toile shirt, but it's not the fit that I would be looking for in the final shirt. So yeah, so I'm thinking of just dropping them back a bit and slightly lower. It's just a question of repositioning the point of the dart. I still want the legs of the dart ending in the same place. I still want them the same size. I just want to move the point. So I don't have to do too much faffing around and rotating of darts to do that. It should just be quite straightforward, just sewing them a little bit shorter and a little bit slightly differently angled. Don't think that's going to cause me too many issues. But yeah, the shoulder seam, arm side, that I definitely think needs to come in a bit. Obviously I've got seam allowance still up here around the collar. So yeah, so that's my fitting based tweaks. The other tweak I want to make on the back, which I won't show you because the back is still on inside out at the minute. I need to unpick these shoulder seams and resew them so it's the right way around, just in case I want to use this as an actual shirt rather than just a toile once it's done. But the back at the bottom of the neck, under the collar, on this view you do 4 pin tucks at that back point. On the other view you do a pleat. But the positioning of the pin tucks seems to be a little bit too close together. So the 2 central pin tucks are lying on top of each other. So you press them both towards the centre. So I just want to move them slightly further apart. It won't alter the fit at all. It's just going to change their placement so that it looks a little bit neater. But it doesn't really matter when the back is on inside out. So next step is to unpick the shoulder seams, resew them so they're the right way around, and then to do the sleeves, get the sleeves on so the side seams up. Then I'll be able to check the fit of the sleeves and double check whether I do need to add 1/2 inch on to the arm side. My gut feeling is that I do, just to make that shoulder seam sit in the right place, because at the moment we're almost on the edge of the fabric. So I think half an inch will do it. Yeah, we are pretty much on the edge of the fabric, maybe 1/4 inch in. That's my shoulder point. So yeah, so just to lengthen that a little bit. And I am quite broad backed, so it's not a huge surprise to me that that needs shifting. But yeah, otherwise it's nipping in at the waist quite nicely. It's shaping around the bust quite nicely. It's not tight around the bust. I just don't think that the darts are in the best position for me, but they're not a million miles off. So yeah, so I'm going to make a note of those potential changes, get the sleeves done and the side seam sewn up, and then see where we're at. I'm not finishing off any seams. I'm not worrying about putting on buttons today. I probably won't even hem it today, because I want to get on to doing the final fabric and getting the pattern adjusted for that. So yeah, just going to unpin myself and get going with that. Okay. So there are definitely some issues to address. See, I'm just pinned in at the front and I've used clips on the cuff just to hold them in place because I'm not putting buttons on at the moment. Okay, so first of all, I was wondering about whether I needed to change where the shoulder seam is. I don't need to change the top of the shoulder seam, but there is pulling across here. So I'm going to add in, I think, a bit here. Just give a bit of width to that bit so that I've got a bit more range of motion in that direction. I could think about doing a gusset under here, but I think I just need to, let's say, about 1/2 inch there. Although when I move my bust darts, they're going to be shorter, so that's going to open up, release more fabric into there. There is a suggestion in the pattern to omit the bust darts. She doesn't give you any reasons why you'd omit the bust darts, but she does say about making sure that these seams are, side seams are the same length if you do that. But I'm thinking if I drop the bust darts down and shorten them, that's going to free up fabric up here. So what I'm going to do, because obviously we'll be trying things on as I make up the next version, is add in a bit of extra here into the seam allowance here on the bodice. So essentially widen this portion by 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch. But then if the bust darts solve the problem and give me more fabric up here, because I can check that by pinning the sleeves on, then I can take it back out again. It's easy enough to remove stuff. So that's my thinking at the moment. Bit more fabric there, just to stop that sort of pulling across there. Other than that, the fit isn't terrible. The seam line has pretty much ended up not far off the point of my shoulder. I mean, it's a little bit farther over, but actually with the way the sleeves are set in, it doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to leave the sleeves, leave the shoulder seam, and add in more fabric on the front of the arm side, being careful to make sure that the length of the arm side is about the same so that it doesn't mess up setting in the sleeves. Move the bust darts, shorten them, lower them. Okay, that should give me room to manoeuvre up here. At the back, I do have some drag lines and things going on. I'll stand this way for a bit, you'll see them. So I've got excess fabric here. I'm in two minds about it. I'm going to look back at the footage and see what I think. I could do a sway back adjustment and take some of that fabric out and adjust the back piece that way. I could put some darts in. I could just leave it. The side seams are nice and straight down my side, so I don't want to add width at the back. But I may need to take some length out. So yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible fit. This bit is a bit annoying, the way that's pulling there. And obviously where I position buttons will make a difference to that as well. But it's not going to like add in extra fabric. So yeah, so I'm thinking that bit needs addressing. So I'll adjust the darts, add in a bit of extra fabric here so that I've got room for manoeuvre when I do the next version, because the next version will be in my final fabric. So yeah, if I end up deciding to make this one a wearable top, I mean it's the fabric colour's fine, the fabric's fine, I could quite easily make it a wearable top twirl. All I'd need to do is do a bit of tidying up, finishing the seams and adding buttons on. So, and I've not hemmed it, I've not added the buttons, I've not finished any seams. So that sort of stuff needs doing. It's given me a fair idea of how much extra time I'm going to need to leave to sew up the main shirt. I need to obviously finish the seams on that, so it's a bit longer than it's taking me to do this one. The pin tucks take a while. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to look back at this footage and see what I think about the back. Okay, so this is the back view without any adjustments. So we can see there's excess fabric and a bit of pulling across the shoulders. And here we can see an attempt to sway back adjustment being made. Okay, so I've come to a decision. I'm going to do a slight sway back adjustment in the back to reduce that length. I'm quite short in the body, so it makes sense that I need to do that. So I've pinned up a little bit here. It's maybe an inch and a half that's coming out in the middle and then tapering out to the sides. So obviously I need to work out how to mark that on the pattern. I had to obviously take the shirt off to do it and use my mannequin because pinning behind myself not easy. So I'm going to do that, but I've also noticed that I'm getting a similar issue in the back as I'm getting across here with the pulling. So I'm going to add half an inch around the armscye, not so much underneath, but more sort of across the front and across the back of the armscye, to give me room to manoeuvre when I put the sleeves on for the final version. So let me show you the fabric for the final version, which is, it's this stuff. It's a bit more heavyweight, it's got a bit of drape to it, it's a Rami, it's from Minerva. So yeah, so this is going to be the final fabric. I'm going to obviously take my time with this one, get the finish a little bit better, and I'll be trying it on as I go to see how those adjustments are actually working out. I mean, normally with a toile you'd be taking things apart and changing things and shifting things around, but as I'm tweaking rather than making big changes, I'm tweaking in a way that this can be undone if my addition of the extra fabric in this area is too much or isn't needed once I've changed the bust darts. That can be undone. I can adjust that. The sway back, I think it's going to make a difference. It seems to be making a difference whilst I've got it pinned in place, so that tells me that it's going to work. And if it's not entirely necessary, all I'm doing is shortening the back, so it just might mean the hem's slightly higher at the back, but it doesn't seem to be. The hem hasn't moved. And if I turn around this way, the hem that I haven't put in yet is still at the same point on my butt, even though I've pinned some fabric out here. So it shouldn't actually impact on the length of the shirt at the back at all. So yeah, so next time you see this shirt, it'll be in the mustard Rami. Okay, so while you're waiting for the next Byrdie shirt update, you might enjoy the video that's on the screen now.